has created some of the most iconic origin stories ever told, but they're also the ones responsible for the gin gold and water fumes thing. It's all about balance. Some DC origin stories we love, and some we still don't understand. Up first is Hawkman. Now, we have been gifted an explanation for his numerous backstories and never-ending lore, and that is because he is simply one guy that just keeps getting reincarnated. But before this was established, good luck. The character was just a little hard to keep up with, to the point where people started making detailed guides on his timeline. Then there was also the fact that two Hawkman characters merged into one during the Crisis on Infinite Earths event. There was just a lot of people handling the character, and they didn't always follow each other's lead. Now, with the latest backstory, everything makes at least a little bit more sense. The Phantom Stranger has led a lot of lives. Literally, one is canon now, but it's only a matter of time before someone else messes with his history. His current origin in the New 52 story is that he was Judas, betrayer of Jesus, and that makes him one of the greatest sinners that ever lived. Past origins include him as a fallen angel who didn't pick a side during the Heavenly War. Another is that he was Isaac from the Bible story, but not exactly the same. This time his son died because King Herod was looking for Jesus, and now Isaac hates Jesus and later tortured him. Another is that he was spared during biblical times but didn't want to be, but the angels didn't want to let him in heaven, so he has to walk the earth alone forever. And the fourth is that he was actually one of the last remaining parts of our previous universe. At the final curtain, he approaches those studying the end and then passes part of himself onto a new person, so when the universe is reborn, they also get a Phantom Stranger. In addition to his many backstories, it's also up in the air as to whether or not he is a villain. To me, it sounds like he started out as a villain, he did betray Jesus a few times, but later realized the error of his ways and became a sort of hero. Lots of people just choose to ignore many New 52 storylines, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see what sticks for this guy. Phantom Stranger is now connected to a villain called Question, but that wasn't always the case. Question at one point was a character that was thought to be a supernatural power, thought to be because it was never made clear. One of the only things that is now considered canon about him is that he has committed a crime bad enough to be considered one of the world's greatest sinners, part of the trio of sin with Phantom. We never know his name. Before being turned into Question, the guy was obsessed with power and having his name feared by all. As his punishment, he got his face taken away and he can no longer remember himself or his name. This was introduced in the New 52. Before that, he was just the alter ego of Vic Sage, but then Flashpoint caused them to separate and even have brand new different histories. This version of him isn't that bad, he just really wants to know who he is. I am hopeful for a name reveal, whether he's another universe version of an existing villain or a real historical figure. Supergirl's horse, Comet, was originally a centaur in ancient Greece that longed to be a human, and one day he ended up saving the sorceress Circe, and she told him that she would give him any reward. He of course asked to be human. So how did he end up instead as Comet the horse? Well, she made the potion to turn him human, but she also made one that would turn him into a horse and accidentally gave him the wrong drink. The comic is like she went away for days to make this potion he had wished for, and then she came out with two. Why did she make two? He wished to be a man. Why didn't you just make the potion that would turn him into a man? Or if you had to make both, why didn't you just throw out the one that would turn him into a horse? You didn't need that one. It doesn't make any sense. And you spent all that time making the potions and there's no antidote? This whole thing never needed to happen. If she had never made the horse version of the potion, then I wouldn't have to live with the knowledge that Supergirl dated her horse, because that did happen when Byron eventually did become human down the line. Worm and Velvet are a duo of a worm and his metahuman, maybe. There is a duo of boy and worm. The boy is called Worm and the worm is named Velvet. Velvet likely created this human kid because he can create humanoid constructs capable of independent thoughts and actions. Likely he did this because he was supposed to be a spy for Peacemaker. The kid could stay in one place while the worm roams around collecting info. The worm also lives in the body's stomach. The boy and worm are separate things. The boy doesn't survive the end of the comic he was featured in, but Velvet the worm does and joins Doom Patrol, accompanying them on later missions. So yeah, this all happened in Unstoppable Doom Patrol from 2023, which is not exactly a comic comic known for being normal, if that makes any of this easier to digest. Dula Dent's origin is confusing because she wants it to be. She has claimed to be the daughter of the Joker, Catwoman, the Riddler, the Penguin, Scarecrow, and Two-Face. She was first introduced as the Joker's daughter, but her last name is Dent, which belongs to Harvey Dent, or Two-Face. So now she is known as Two-Face's daughter for a while, until Robin figures out she's not the right age to be his daughter. She agrees and then just disappears. She appeared in the Teen Titans comic series, and she was planned to be revealed as a time traveler that gets reality warped one too many times and is driven insane. Unfortunately, we never got to see this, as the comics were cancelled. Technically, Dula doesn't want to be a villain, but she does fight a lot of heroes and lies all the time. She was later revealed to actually legit be the daughter of another universe Joker and Three-Face, a female variation of Two-Face. Is this a lie? You can literally never know what's real in these universes anymore, and turns out, neither can Dula. It's suggested that because her mind was warped so much that every time she switches Earth, her consciousness switches slightly as well, which is why she named so many different parents. She was just confused. Boss Glitter was the main antagonist of the forgotten DC series about the Heckler. He's a ruthless mob boss with a little bit of flair. He uses old Mardi Gras masks to hide his face and controls the city by planting a bunch of lieutenants that manage different parts of it for him. The problem is the Heckler keeps defeating all those lieutenants and throwing them in jail, so naturally Boss Glitter wants the Heckler to heckle no more. When his lieutenants fail, Boss Glitter takes the matters into his own hands and sends a bouquet of flowers to Heckler, who is in the hospital with a bomb in them. The Heckler does still survive though, and we don't hear from Boss Glitter anymore because the comics had bad sales, so the series was cancelled. So we never actually found out what his deal was, what is with the Mardi Gras masks. Why is Boss Glitter your mob boss name? We'll never know, and it does haunt me. Jay Garrick becoming the fastest man alive because he knocked over some water and inhaled the fumes? How does that make sense? The Flash character Jay Garrick was first introduced in late 1939 in Flash Comics 1. He was a brilliant student that had been working with hard water for years, specifically studying the gases emanating from it. One late night, while experimenting with separating the water's elements, Jay, the brilliant student, had the brilliant idea to smoke in the lab. He knocked over the hard water fume glass, and when he tried to clean it up, he fainted from exposure and woke up the fastest man alive. Through my research, I came across the debate that suggested that whoever was coming up with the original origin story way back when might have confused hard water and heavy water. Hard water is water with a higher mineral or dissolved metal content, and it's not particularly dangerous. Heavy water is used in nuclear power plants, and that makes it seem super mysterious. Maybe they thought because hard water technically has more minerals, it would just make you better. I don't know. Either way, becoming the fastest man alive because you inhaled water fumes is a very odd choice. Elongated Man also debuted in a Flash comic, and his original origin is also a weird science story. Ralph Dibny was fascinated by a particularly stretchy man he had seen at the circus as a child and was determined to make himself stretchy. He discovered that the performer liked drinking this soda called Gin Gold and figured, well, that must be the cause of his flexibility. So he started to experiment with the drink. He figured out that the main ingredient was a little-known tropical fruit, and that was what gave the performer his stretchy power. By isolating the essence of this mystery fruit and drinking that, Ralph became Elongated Man. Now don't worry, it's not all this mystery tropical fruit. There is an element of willpower too. These Golden Age origin stories might not make any sense, but they sure are entertaining. And finally, the Joker is one of the most iconic villains of all time, so it's no wonder why so many people want to leave their mark on his story. Unfortunately, that makes for a pretty messed up, twisted, confusing history. Speaking of which, I would love to know y'all's thoughts on the newest lore from Joker 2. Anyways, there are a few constants with the Joker's story, but often he ends up in acid and comes out looking the way he does. Who he was before, and even during the swim, is kind of up to whoever is holding the pen. In 1951's Detective Comics 168, the Joker had been the Red Hood, also a criminal, and one night he decided to rob a factory, escaping by swimming through the pool of chemical wastes. He thought he would come out normal, I guess, didn't, and to his delight, he figured out his new look was actually quite scary, and then used that to his advantage. In later versions, like The Killing Joke in 1988, he's a failing comedian, and once again finds himself in the chemical factory, but this time he gets scared into the acid. In Batman the Animated Series, he was a hired slayer first. It kind of really depends on what the writers want to do. But what do you think? Let us know. Bye!